director of Thor Ragnarok, we are now getting a new Hitler movie. And it's one of the best films of this year. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a brand new movie review. Today I'm going to be discussing Jojo Rabbit. This film was directed and written by Taika Waititi and also stars Taika Waititi, Rebel Wilson, Sam Rockwell, Scarlett Johansson, Thomasin McKenzie, and Roman Griffin Davis. This movie is one of my most anticipated of the year. I love his two original feature films, What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilderpeople. And ever since the announcement of Jojo Rabbit and the likes of this cast alone, I was sold. Taika Waititi is one of the most interesting voices in Hollywood when it comes to direction and in general even writing. He's uniquely, wickedly weird, but all of his stuff kind of comes together in the most unique tones while also formulating into such a beautiful aspect as well. Most of his original films actually have a lot more to say than just what's on the outer surface. Jojo Rabbit here, while a lot of people have been saying, yeah, it's the Hitler movie, it's the Hitler comedy, on the inside of it, this is a total satire on not just Nazis, Hitler, but a whole total satire on hatred. And I loved what Waititi did for this film. And I'm just going to go out and say that this is one of my favorite films of this year, if not my favorite right now. Jojo Rabbit took me by storm. And when the film had started, I was getting into this and I was like, I'm liking this, but I don't know how to feel about it yet. And it's a little bit off-toning and off-putting in a couple of scenes, and it's kind of hard to watch at times, even though it is a satire and there's a lot of humorous elements to it. It is a tough film to watch at times. And there came a point where it's towards the end of the film where I was really watching it, I was having so much fun, I was laughing, but there's one moment that ripped my heart out and made me just start to cry. It was one of the hardest moments in the whole entire film to watch, but it was one of the best moments. And it brought this whole film full circle of what this movie is about and what it's trying to teach people. This movie's about a young 10-year-old boy who is in Hitler's army, but as he goes home one day, he finds out that his mother is actually hiding a Jewish girl in their home. And, well, his imaginary friend Adolf Hitler does not like this. Yes, I said that his imaginary friend Adolf Hitler is in this movie. His imaginary friend, I cannot stress that enough, is Adolf Hitler. And Taika Waititi plays Adolf Hitler so well. Not to a dramatic tone, but into a very humorous tone. The humor in here is great, and everything that it makes fun of, anything that you ever learned in history class about Nazi Germany is all prevalent in here, and the ways that they make fun of everything in here is some of the strongest aspects of this film, and even goes again to all the satirical stuff that this movie has to say. I said it in my tweet as I walked out, this movie is Taika Waititi's most mature film to date, and I think the reason this film works so well, because it could have easily gone in a very wrong direction. The reason it works so well is because of how mature his direction and writing in this film is and how great it is. It's very strong, and in fact, it's probably one of the strongest directions of the year that I could possibly see Taika Waititi actually getting a nomination for direction and writing, and even seeing Jojo Rabbit get a Best Picture nomination. A lot of that might just be because of how much I love the film, but I can't stress that enough that this film could have easily gone down a different path, but it went down the best path that it possibly could. In the hands of a master like this is why it worked. Taika Waititi's really known for his style when he's directing his films, and his style is here. I mentioned that mature tone earlier. The thing that I felt like Taika Waititi actually dove into on this one is he kind of brought out his inner Chaplin and his inner Wes Anderson, which was actually very nice to see, because Charlie Chaplin is one of my favorite directors of all time. He's one of my favorite stars of all time, and every film he ever starred in that I ever go back to rewatch is hilarious, but also some of his films have a lot more to say than you would think. And Wes Anderson's kind of the same way. Now, the reason I kind of feel that Wes Anderson vibe is because of Moonrise Kingdom, one of my favorites of him. There are some vibes of that. These Nazi 10-year-old kids are going to a camp to learn how to be Nazis. And it's just the way they play around this, the humor all in those, entail back to Chaplin and also mixed in with Anderson, but it's, of course, Waititi's style, and it just overall works. Talking about shining aspects of this film that works overall is Roman Griffin Davis. He is a star, and I cannot wait to see where he goes next after this. This kid's relationship with Thomasin McKenzie, the young Jewish girl, also in here is phenomenal. Thomasin McKenzie has been having a last couple of great years. If you ever saw Leave No Trace last year, she was excellent in that, and she's fantastic in here. The relationship she develops with Roman Griffin Davis's Jojo is some, again, the strongest parts of this film. And of course, also Jojo's mother, played by Scarlett Johansson, is also one of the strongest parts of here. I love what Johansson did with this this role. It was so subtle, but at the same time, so much. So much charismatic values coming out of every single one of these performers. Whether, again, it's Thomas and Mackenzie, or Roman, or even Scarlett Johansson, they're all bringing these characters to life inside the satire that just works to every moment. I haven't even mentioned this yet, even though I've already mentioned Taika Waititi as Adolf Hitler. One of the big Nazi generals in here is played by Sam Rockwell, who chews the scenery up, and not just does that, he does more with this role. There's so much more to his role as it furthers out throughout the film that you just learn more about him, and a lot of it is subtle. A lot of this movie is subtle. A lot of its humor is very wickedly smart and wickedly subtle to the point that some people will kind of fly right over their head and they'll think this is a dumb movie. But this movie was everything that I wanted it to be. Before I get to my final thoughts on Jojo Rabbit, guys, make sure again to hit that like and subscribe button because I do tons of early movie reviews like this on a daily basis, and film reviews, say like The Irishman, Marriage Stories, Knives Out, will be coming up very soon. And of course, I want to give a big shout out to all my Patreon supporters because without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. And plus, a lot of you guys asked me on how to see films early. Make sure to go check out Sam Sean Films down below. Jojo Rabbit, I walked in knowing I was probably going to really like the movie, and I walked out adoring it, loving it. I was in tears from laughter and just from in general the emotion. Roman Griffin Davis is a star to look out for. Thomas and Mackenzie is again that up-and-comer that's nailing every role she's in. Scarlett Johansson is phenomenal. Sam Rockwell is great. And of course, just like everyone else being phenomenal, Taika Waititi's direction, writing, and even his performance as an imaginary friend of Adolf Hitler is great. The satirical elements, the humor in here works, and when this film needs to hit those emotional beats, it takes them, rips your heart out, and totally is very timely for this sake. There's a lot of great memorable quotes in here. There's a lot of great dynamics in here, and Roman Griffin Davis, who has one of his friends in here, who he has a lot of great moments with and great chemistry on board with. It kind of reminds me of like a younger version of Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. A lot of the things in this movie, that even though it is a satire on the Nazis and Hitler, it is a satire about hate. Nonetheless, it is all about that, and a satire that they must dive into and delve into pretty good. It's a needed and a must-watch film for all of society today. It's one of my favorites this year. I laughed, I cried, I had a blast with this movie, and again, I cannot wait for you guys to see it and for me to see it again. So, of course, with all that said, I'm going to give Jojo Rabbit an A. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this film. Do you guys like it? Do you hate it? Let's talk about it down below. And look forward to my Taika Waititi ranking this week. It's going to be a fun blast talking about all Taika Waititi's films from worst to best. Thank you guys again so much for clicking on this video. And of course, until next time, stay classy.